Population ecology density dependent factors. When you talk about changes in population and changes in density, birth rate and death rate that do not change with the population is said to be density independent. If death rate or birth rate does change, it's density dependent. So there's going to be lots of feedback regulation that occurs with population dynamics. At first we have competition, and competition can be for anything. A lot of times it's nutrients or space, and so in the case of plants, the one way to overcome this is by adding fertilizers, because when you talk about agriculture, the plants are grown so closely together that they compete for nutrients in that soil. Adding fertilizer reduces that limitation. Predation, if the predator, there's going to be a relationship between predator and prey here. If the predator is getting all the food it wants, the prey population is probably going down. Predators sometimes feed preferentially on certain species, so that relationship can be tied together pretty closely. Toxic wastes. When you talk about things like yeast, like brewer's yeast, Saccharomyces cerevisiae, they use carbohydrates and convert it to ethanol. But the ethanol, as it accumulates, it becomes toxic to the yeast. So that is definitely density dependent. Bacteria grown in culture would eventually do the same thing as well. Intrinsic factors are things like reproductive rate sometimes. If you're looking at, what do we have here? White-footed mice. If there's a drop, if there's really high population density, reproduction rate drops, and you have crowding that causes aggressive interactions and hormonal changes that actually delays sexual maturity and depresses the immune system so that you get sick easier. Territoriality. Many organisms are territorial, and that can limit population density because they're going to mark their territory and no one else gets to come in, right? A lot of cats mark their territory with urine. And a lot of birds get very aggressive if other birds are too near their nest. Having non-breeding individuals is a good indication that territoriality is restricting your population growth. And last up is disease. If you look at the flu or tuberculosis, I didn't even spell that right, hang on. And both of these are caused by, the flu is a virus and tuberculosis is a bacteria, but both are transmitted through the air when you sneeze or cough. And there's a greater percentage of people in densely populated cities that are affected by these than rural, because you just have more people around you to spread it to. Population dynamics is the changes, fluctuations from year to year, place to place in population levels. It can be influenced by many things, like commercially important species or fish are harvested at certain points of the year, right? Mammals were thought to be stable. Their populations were thought to be stable, but I'm not even there, I'm here. but harsh weather, cold climates, parasites, all that kind of stuff can limit. The sheep that we talked about in the first video, I think, have some of those issues. And then if you look at moose populations on Isle Royale in on Lake Superior, predation can have that effect as well. So a lot of critters have like a 10-year cycle. If they're really small, 3 to 4 years, but you can cycle their populations. And one of the most common examples here are the lynx, which is the predator, it's a cat, and snowshoe hare. And if the hare numbers rise, you expect the lynx numbers to rise. So they are tied together. But the question is, why are the hare numbers, why do they cycle every 10 years? And there's been 3 hypotheses: food shortage during winter, predator-prey, and then sunspot activities. And so a series of people have done research on this, trying to figure out exactly why. Extra food increases density, but the cycle continues, so that's not it. Predators kill 90% of the hares in most studies, so that definitely has an issue, but there's none dying of starvation. If you exclude predators and prey, if you put like some of the snowshoe hares in an electrified fence, then the hare population does do better, but better fed hares are more likely to escape predators also. And the thing with the sunspot activity is that every 11 years there's low sunspot activity where, maybe I missed that, hang on. Okay, where the less atmospheric ozone is produced. Therefore, slightly more UV radiation reaches the Earth's surface, and plants produce more UV blocking chemicals and fewer chemicals that deter herbivores, which in turn increases food supply. And through all these studies, they found that these bottom two, I didn't list them. The last two, the predator and the sunspot, probably have the most influence there. Metapopulations are formed from immigration, I-immigration and E-immigration, to take a number of local populations and link them together. They might occupy unsuitable, or they might occupy these little patches of habitat, and they're surrounded by unsuitable habitat. If you look at figure 5321 in your book, that may help you with this concept a tiny bit more. Guess what? Only one more.